and welcome to another Wrestling Roundtable discussion podcast. I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture, joined by the Dudley boys of WhatCulture, Michael Hamflett and Michael Sidgwick, to discuss all the big wrestling talking points of the week. But before we begin, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes or Spotify for daily podcasts, where we review pay-per-views, Raw, SmackDown, we have interviews, we have more roundtable discussions just like this one, and we have the round of the week complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WhatCulture. But gents, lots to chat about this week. I want to start with a man who had yet another fantastic match at Survivor Series. He always seems to pull it out of the bag around that time of the year. Brock Lesnar. I want to know what you two think is next for him.
I mean, it's my hope that he makes it to WrestleMania with the WWE title, because I'm allowed to assume that he's going to have big matches on big stages. I feel like maybe the Roman Reigns match last year was a bit of an outlier because the booking was a complete mess and the fans were going to dump on the whole match regardless of what happened. But you look at the SummerSlam match and the AJ Styles match from last year and the Survivor Series match on Sunday, it's nice to know he's still got it in him for those big moments.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to get one more out of him, if this 2 or 3 date contract he signed around the Saudi Arabia show is anything to go by, I'd rather have it at WrestleMania than blowing it off at the Rumble, personally. So whoever he gets, it'll just feel so much bigger, I think, at that show.
I know you were a huge fan of his match against Daniel Bryan at Survivor Series.
Yeah, I gave that match, and I'm not trying to compare myself to Dave Meltzer here or anything, but I do a star ratings article. I gave it 5 stars. And the reason why I did this is because when I was watching it live, I was just getting so irritated. And I'm numb to a lot of the stuff that they do now. I don't get angry anymore, but I was bloody angry with this. And as the minutes went by, I was just getting more and more annoyed because it was just like, well, this is his crown jewel punishment, wasn't it? And I just got completely worked, and I loved every second of it. In the course of that match, I felt the lowest of lows and the highest of highs. Basically, by the time we got to the spot where Daniel Bryan was clubbing him around the face, not only was that great catharsis, not only was that old-fashioned wrestling brutality, but that actually built to the point where the much smaller, technically proficient guy had outwitted this absolute beast that Brock Lesnar is. I thought it was absolutely immaculate. And I'm with Hamflett. I was very down on Brock Lesnar prior to Sunday, but more so than any other performer, on the strength of one performance, he can just completely turn it around. And I'm with him. I want to see him carry that title all the way to WrestleMania 35.
It's weird, isn't it? Because you assume in matches against the likes of Braun Strowman or Roman Reigns, you think because they're two similar-sized guys that you'd have a far more entertaining, far more back-and-forth match. And yet this is 2 years in a row where he's been facing a little guy in WWE's eyes. And you've arguably gone into the match and gone, he's just going to ragdoll this guy. He's just going to chuck him about like an empty tracksuit. And that's going to be that. And yet, against AJ Styles, he had this phenomenal match where he was selling the calf crusher throughout the entire match. And the Bryan match, I had to sort of re-watch it a few days after Survivor Series to truly appreciate, I think. Because I was the same as you. We were doing a live stream for it, and I was sat there terrified that this is going to be the main event of Survivor Series. Like you say, this is going to be Daniel Bryan's crown jewel punishment.
But I think
he's going to be chucked. He's going to be chucked
Yeah.
about all over the place. And I couldn't really enjoy it after the fact because then I knew, we have got a really entertaining match here. And yes, via a kick in the dick, but the yes lock, I got sold on the yes lock. It's preposterous, I think you said in your star ratings, that Brock Lesnar, in the midst of what he's doing right now in WWE and arguably what he's going to do in the UFC, preposterous that he would tap out to a yes lock by
From
Daniel Bryan.
Daniel Bryan.
We all bought it. We all bought it.
Lesnar sold it as well. It wasn't just Daniel Bryan's clearly had the biggest hand in laying that match out, clearly, because he's like a genius storyteller. But Brock Lesnar's selling in that match was absolutely fabulous. And I think if you can work with someone who he can either be convinced to put over, shall we say, because for whatever reason he just doesn't really feel that with Braun Strowman at all.
Not at all.
And the worst thing is, even if we try and fantasy book a scenario here in which Strowman takes the title off Lesnar at the Royal Rumble, I've seen no evidence whatsoever that we're going to get a big match out of it, like a really good, feel-good, cathartic moment where Braun finally goes over Brock in this classic match. All evidence points to the fact that we're not going to see it. So what next for Brock Lesnar? I'd rather that he went over Braun. Braun's recovered from a one-sided battering from Lesnar's hands before. So if this is what's going to happen to make my scenario happen, so be it. I mean, Braun will probably be all right. And even if he isn't, he's kind of got long-term injury concerns, which we can talk about now.
Indeed.
His elbow is not looking great, hence why he's had to have surgery on it. And it's reported a few weeks ago that his knees
He'd
on
blown
in
out
great
both his knees,
condition.
yeah.
He, when he was chasing, I forget what he was chasing, might have been Corbin on Raw, but you could see he couldn't even run properly because he was having trouble with him there and then. And he's obviously worked through that, and he's worked through all sorts because he's kind of had to, like, not just in the sort of the aftermath of the Roman news, but he's had to step up in a lot of ways. I think in the last couple of years, a man of his size, working the type of matches that he's been working, you know, he does a lot for a big guy. Does Braun? So these,
He's a massive guy as well. Like his style can't be good on the knees.
No,
at all.
These are kind of mounting injuries, aren't they? More than anything, it's not like now he just needs an instant hit to knock him down. It's a body gradually sort of degenerating.
So you're not saying that Braun Strowman should necessarily, if this does come to pass, lose at the Royal Rumble just to make Brock Lesnar look good. You're just trying to say it for maybe do that and then give him a bit of time away before the WrestleMania.
I personally don't think it's the best use of Brock. You know, if we're sort of talking about what's next for Brock and what's in the near future for Brock, he drops these little clues sometimes that he's still got a bit of a respect for the craft. I think you're right in what you say. Like, there's a certain coercing that's gone on from maybe Styles and Bryan to get the match out of him. The bit that stuck out on Sunday for me was the bit where, like, the spot, which I'm sure Bryan came up with, but Brock went along with, for him to, like, try and hold Bryan up in the F5 in his knee giveaway to set up the S-lock. Those are moments that remind you that Brock Lesnar was, like, a pro wrestler once upon a time, and he understands the beats of a story of a match. And I think, like, there's people on the roster now with Braun and with other giants, and even with Samoa Joe to an extent, there's guys now who he doesn't need to in those matches. And if anything, like, there's a lot of wrestlers that could benefit from chopping down the tree rather than just having this case of these two bulls coming together. Braun can beat him in the end, or Braun can win the title, I suppose. But I don't know if that's even the most satisfying way to make the best use of Lesnar anymore.
They've ruined Braun for me, you know. On a subjective level, I don't know what the temperature is, the rest of the wrestling fandom, but if you look at how on fire Braun Strowman was ahead of No Mercy, I was like No Mercy 2017. I was desperate for him to win the title because he was absolutely on fire. He'd been protected. He was performing as the start. He was like, his performances merited the push, but they've just sort of normalized him.
Have they waited too long before pulling
Yes,
the trigger?
I would say certainly, especially a performer of that ilk, like the kind of performer he is. Like, the more, it was kind of like, in a weird way, I'm getting a bit of the Bray Wyatt vibe from Braun Strowman. And what I mean by that is, the more and more Bray Wyatt lost wrestling matches, despite the fact that he held such a ridiculous advantage over the rest of the roster, i.e. supernatural bloody powers, and the more he didn't lean on that part of his character to actually win wrestling matches, it just completely undermined his aura. And it's a similar thing with Braun Strowman. Like, a guy that size should have been champion by now for me. For it to make any kind of sense in the fiction of it, he should have been champion by now.
I feel like they rebuilt him after No Mercy, the loss to Brock. But the Money in the Bank thing was the turning point for me. Like, for him not to cash in when he did at SummerSlam, and then for him to do the stupid thing of saying, oh, well, I'll fight you in a month, just really as part of a stumbling heel turn. Fans remember stuff like this, you know, like, and as you say, like, Bray Wyatt's supernatural powers didn't help him win. Braun Strowman's, like, physical powers aren't helping him win. And fans back winners, and they do give up on losers. Yeah. And there comes a point where, like, Braun Strowman will just be another loser in the eyes of fans, no matter how big he is.
So if we look past Braun Strowman potentially in the future for Brock Lesnar, who would you like to see him face? Is it difficult to predict because the discussion of him versus Daniel Cormier will roll on, and the general consensus from what I can tell is that match may happen before March. Is some of the discussion there, because that's when DC has said he wants to fight up until his 40th birthday, perhaps. And if that's the case, then it'd arguably be before March. But let's put that to one side, ignore that fact. Who would you have him face at WrestleMania?
For which he is booked as well.
Yeah,
like, he is definitely booked.
I feel like there's probably going to be a lot of agreement around the table, and I know I'm the last person to get on his bandwagon. But the booking of Drew McIntyre has been such that it's hard to look past anyone other than him for me on.
Because it makes too much sense.
Yeah, like you know, I think there's a lot of smaller talents. I think there's a Finn Balor match still lingering in there that we all want and we all believe could be great.
I don't anymore. But it's the same thing with the Strowman stuff. Like, it's just too much of a loser now.
I don't believe Vince wants it, so maybe that's like what kind of beats it out of me. But I think the match would be great. But you look at the booking of Drew McIntyre, and there's very few wrestlers that get protected in the way that he has been, and there's very few wrestlers that have used that protection to actually level up, and he's done all of that this year. And I just think, like, he could have those AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan style matches with Brock Lesnar, but also be considered like a near physical equal. And I'm fascinated by the chemistry, you know, that I think they could have. he doesn't feel to me yet to be the guy. This sounds critical of Drew. He doesn't feel to me yet to be the guy that would actually match Brock's aura at a WrestleMania. But they've got months to get there, not necessarily with a Royal Rumble win, but everything they've been doing so far suggests that they've got it in them to actually look after his,
I would do it
what
with a
he's
Rumble
really
win.
good at.
I would do it with a Rumble win. He's been on that roster for 8-9 months now. If he can win the Rumble in less than a calendar year, having been on the back of such a strong, he will be taken seriously as a strong proposition. I think there are other wrestlers I subjectively and personally like more than Drew McIntyre across SmackDown and Raw. But again, it's just the power of good booking, which you don't see enough of anymore. I just want to see a match between two really protected guys because it will feel like it matters and it will go somewhere.
One final name I want to chuck at you, which is not something I'm necessarily suggesting he should have at WrestleMania.
Titus O'Neil.
No. Seth Rollins is a match that we've obviously seen previously, but in a very different light. Is there an argument perhaps there to have him face Brock at some point, not necessarily at WrestleMania?
See, for me, and if I'm not already hated enough by the comment section, they're going to hate me more. There's something a little bit overrated about Seth Rollins. As good as the year he's had, his match with The Miz was great. Virtually the last 5 minutes of any of his matches are always incredible, but the Dolph Ziggler match at SummerSlam, even the Hell in a Cell tag team match, which was incredible, the match with Nakamura at Survivor Series, some of his matches, especially ones that go 20 to 25 minutes, they seem to meander where other great workers can make it build.
The Raw Gauntlet, how badly he used all that time he had to fill on Raw.
You're going to be a heel now for saying this.
Before the exciting finishes, that's exactly what it made me think of there. The finishing sequences in those matches he did win were incredible, but he was out there for a long time doing not a great deal. It didn't feel like I was watching much actually happening.
So if we've got another incidental question on the back of this, basically, what next for Brock Lesnar? Depending on what happens with Roman Reigns, it dovetails into another question, which means whoever beats him at Mania is probably going to be the man for a while. And I don't think Seth Rollins is the man. He can't carry television for me, compelling television as a babyface. He does a heel without Stephanie and Triple H. As a heel, he's a cackling, great character. But as a babyface, I don't think he can carry it. And if he was to be Universal Champion, I don't want to see him in 25-minute matches because I think he's not that great at them.
I think the remaining wild card, and this goes beyond fantasy booking, is Matt Riddle. I think the instant call-up, the flash victory, something like that, he's a made man, instantly a made man, and he already feels like he's carrying himself like he's a made man already, and all he's doing is knocking out Cassius Ohno in 7 seconds on an NXT pay-per-view. So you stretch that all the way to WrestleMania where either Brock hasn't got an opponent or Riddle just is expected to work a takeover and then takes that giant leap. It's kind of a booking thing we discussed when we were talking about NXT call-ups. It's something they've never really braved, but if there's one guy, it's Matt Riddle.
Yeah.
If there's one guy they could do that with over Lesnar, it's Matt Riddle.
And they love their MMA background. They're a huge fan of that sort of thing. Moving on, let's talk next about a new promotion that a lot of people have been discussing this week. All Elite Wrestling. They've gone out. They've got a lot of copyrights and all that sort of thing with All Elite Wrestling and All Out and all that sort of thing. I want to talk a little bit about that promotion. They've got a lot of money behind them, arguably. But I also want to look at the bigger picture. Is a new wrestling promotion in 2018, or as we head into 2019, a viable option? Yes, they have this huge amount of money behind them, but it's not just about that, is it?
I've got mixed feelings on the whole thing, to be honest. I'm a weekly Being the Elite watcher. I was hugely into All In and all the storylines that fed into All In. I think I'm what they consider part of their core audience. I'll wear a Kenny Omega t-shirt and do all that gimmick stuff that they love. But I'm not sure that an actual promotion seems to fit as part of what they're doing with pro wrestling and what they're going to do in 2019. They've made themselves stars in a time where it's really hard to become a star. They spotted what was happening in indie wrestling before it actually happened, which is to say you've got guys that kind of become names outside of the WWE machine and sell themselves in your local town. You buy a ticket no longer to watch an ex-WWE guy. It's not about Rene Dupree coming to town anymore. It's about this guy you're hearing all about.
Rene Dupree.
Yeah, this guy you're hearing all about or you're seeing on Twitter and you're desperate to be part of that life. Matt Riddle, funnily enough, was a guy like that for me. I couldn't wait when I heard that WCPW or Defiant was bringing him to Newcastle. Something like that was incredible, and I just don't know if a promotion is any more like the fashionable way to make the most of these incredible talents. All In was a special one night, and All In 2 would be a special one night event again that they could build with 10 minutes of YouTube a week. But does the world need another promotion in any name. You know?
It depends. Because if you asked this question to me 3 weeks ago, when Super Showdown and Crown Jewel and all this was just rubbish, WWE felt so rubbish at the time. If you asked me this question then, I would have said, yeah, bring it on. Bring on another promotion that theoretically could get on YouTube tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow. Do a few tapings, get on YouTube, create some instant buzz. That's not going to make money for them. It's not really a business podcast, this, because I don't think we're that knowledgeable about the business of pro wrestling. But it all depends on whether they can get a TV deal. But theoretically, if they had an hour of easily accessible television, YouTube or whatever, I would commit to watching it. But I'm a lifelong wrestling fan who doesn't really have time for much of their interests, and that is not the kind of person that a sponsor is going to think, all right, okay, we can milk loads of money from them. And sponsors are kind of allergic to wrestling anyway, so they've got an uphill battle to climb. And I think there's not really going to be that much of a sustained interest in a proposition like this, because we've just come on the back of an amazing WWE weekend. And, you know, if that kind of thing delivers, Royal Rumble season, WrestleMania season, it's going to be hard for an alternative, no matter how popular it is with a core audience, to capitalise on a year-long buzz, because people will just forget.
That's the thing, isn't there? There's a huge desire, you know, you looked at the excitement and the buzz around All In, and we covered it ourselves here, of course, but that is very, very different to a consistent wrestling promotion, isn't it?
Yeah, if you look at New Japan Pro Wrestling now, there's never been a lack of a buzz about it that there is now since the start of the golden era, arguably. The World Tag Leagues, is it going on? It is, isn't it?
It's
nobody cares.
Yeah.
The stars aren't interested in doing it. They're getting preserved for the big show ahead of it. And this was the cool alternative, and it's been the case all year long. But the more and more you see of it, and basically New Japan front loads its calendar to the point where, by design, no one's meant to care that much about this, so it can all refresh it around January. But if they can't sustain that level of buzz for even a year, in the year of the 7-star match, then how can any wrestling company do the whole 52 weeks a year thing, other than WWE, which has got such an established core audience? Because the more and more Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks are going to expose their brand, and honestly, they're not really getting that much younger either, then, yeah, I just don't really see it as a 52-week proposition.
Something that sticks out for me as well is that if you say just include the elite, these like 7 or 8 guys, they're currently split across all their own stuff they do, independent dates, Ring of Honor and New Japan. Now, should this sort of thing come up, does that take them away individually from all those groups and just, you know, collate them all on one show a week, let's say an hour at a time? And is that really what, like, the wrestling fan base wants? Is it not nicer to think, well, I'm going to get Kenny Omega on a weekly episode of The Elite, but I'm also going to get him as IWGP champion on New Japan. I'm occasionally going to get him for Ring of Honor working alongside the Young Bucks. Cody Rhodes, like, completely reinvented himself on the fact that he went absolutely everywhere. He learned and he took everything he could from all those things that he'd never done going through the WWE system. Like, what does it really behoove those guys to trap themselves in one system that potentially might fail and take themselves away from, like, all the extra reach they've got and all the other products they can contribute to?
That's a big part of it as well. You've gotten onto it because the Young Bucks, the meet and greets that they do, they are so dedicated to have, like, local fans come out and see them and spend 4 hours at a time. The whole point of their brand, well, not the whole point, but a big part of it, is that they make their fans feel special and connected to the brand. And if it's this thing that doesn't exist, like, locally, they're not traveling absolutely everywhere, as you say. I mean, they're really obviously incredibly talented guys. Like, being the Elite is so creative. Their in-ring work is brilliant. They can produce T-shirts like every week. It's just a case of, is it a bit too much? Is that brand strong enough to create an actual viable alternative to WWE? And I'm just not sure it is.
And as well, I don't think I know. I think when the WCW went out of business in 2001, ECW went out at the same time, there was a lot of, like, questions over what the viable alternative actually was. TNA never truly captured it at all. Ring of Honor came quite close in just, like, hammering you over the head with technical wrestling that was wrestling for being wrestling, and almost uncompromisingly so. They didn't ask for new followers. They asked
It was the antidote, wasn't it?
They asked for people that, like, wanted away from sports entertainment. I don't think, and I love nearly all of them, I don't think a promotion headed up by Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks would necessarily do a lot of stuff that was terribly different from WWE. If you look at WWE as the broad church it is in 2018 and going into 2019, like, have they got that many matches in them that can top what we saw at TakeOver just this last weekend with War Games? Like, what gap in the market are they filling other than a few weeks where, like, Chris Jericho gets to do exactly what he wants, or Jim Ross can be let off a leash, or whatever it is that they think these fans are looking for? How long before they just become a number 2 version of New Japan or a number 2 version of WWE. I think it's hard. I don't know. I think this gap is a little bit mythical, personally. And again,
The odd pay-per-view makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, All In felt like this very special occasion, but that's because it was a special occasion. I'm not sure weekly if they know really what that gap in the market is, other than the fact that, like I say, you're potentially robbing promotions. I could watch 6 promotions just to see all those guys. I might now watch none of them and just stick to an hour a week, and aren't those promotions worse off for it?
And sorry, just one more thing as well. We're talking about diminished returns and how a really strong brand can't compete in an overexposed market. If you look at what New Japan's tried to do with its expansion, they've went to the Walter Pyramid in 2017, totally sold it out. They've ran subsequent shows there, and the more and more they've ran that show, the people have already seen it, and they're not that interested in going to see it. I think it was half full the last time they did it.
Huge main events, Kenny Omega main events in front of bleachers, empty bleachers.
Yeah, empty bleachers.
An ugly look.
They tried to run the Cow Palace in San Francisco, like a big, old, traditional wrestling stronghold, and didn't get the numbers there at all. I think it was a bit of overexposure on the West Coast, and they've ran California too often, but I think that's a lesson that should have been learned by now, I think. But we'll see.
I'm sure this is going to spark a great deal of discussion. Let us know your thoughts either in the comment section or on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Finally, though, I want to talk about Enzo Amore. After his appearance at Survivor Series, or lack of, I suppose, in terms of the fact that WWE tried everything to make sure you did not see him stand up, take off his, what did you call it, Bart Simpson and
Shelbyville wig.
take off that wig and attempt to cut a promo about how he's doing great.
Ross Geller was doing great, doing fine, and so was Enzo Amore.
Indeed.
Thank goodness for camera phones, because we've got multiple views of him falling flat on his face, getting pulled away by a security guard.
The woman from security as well, who
legend.
tried to stop Gronk get involved at WrestleMania, and this week I think protected the crowd from the food in the food fight on SmackDown.
Early favourite for the Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal, I think.
I want to know what the most cringeworthy moment in wrestling you two can think of is.
I mean, it's been enjoyable to collate some of these today. I'd hate to trample over either of your choices, but once it was brought up, not by me, I can't help but think about Kalisto's brand extension botch. An unreal moment of panic in front of the camera, something that I don't even think I've done yet on WhatCulture.com. He's a man that was is in this industry knowing full well, especially in WWE and coming through NXT. He's stood in those promo classes, and we've seen those tapes. Those look like an awkward time, a tough time. That's metal testing tough stuff that Dusty Rhodes devised. So if you're embarrassed in front of your colleagues, wait till you get out there in front of an audience. You can work through these characters. Some of this stuff's going to bomb. Some of the stuff's going to pop the boys in the performance center, and then it's going to die on the main roster. But it's every single version of your worst and your best day for the very nights like Kalisto had in 2016. And when he literally runs away from his problems, knowing what he's created for himself and knowing the organisation he works for, he can't have been surprised when they gave him theme music called Good Lucha Things a few weeks after that promo. He knew that he was going to get bantered off by his brand new bosses. There's such a tragedy to it that, if anything, it takes this masked superhero and it humanises him, because for a second I felt like I was on his level.
I know, but it's a horrible thing, because in that minute you were like, for Christ's sake. This is why they do scripted promos. For Christ's sake, these stupid geeks don't know how to do it anymore. God damn it, Kalisto, you've ruined it for everybody. So I can't enjoy this even on a Schadenfreude level, because Kalisto ruined it. Thanks, mate. Good lucha things. I mean, oh God. I'm an empathetic human being. He looked pitiful. Just so pitiful out there.
What's some of your favourite cringeworthy
Jumping
moments?
Jeff Farmer.
Incredible.
Jumping Jeff Farmer. You'll know it. But if you don't,
It's worth
if you're
going to look
listening or watching, just wait until it's finished. But after it's finished, go and watch Jumping Jeff Farmer on YouTube, because the best thing about this promo, and I've been trying to analyse it scientifically for years now, but if you're a pro wrestler, right, the idea is that you can chin someone in a fight. You can beat someone in a fight. Therefore, on some level, you have to be intimidating. You have to have a bit about you to think, oh my God, on my worst day, he might beat me. Even if Jumping Jeff Farmer, he was the lowest jobber of the low. And the guy looks like he's about to fill his pants at the second he sees a camera. You must have signed up for this. It's a televised enterprise. He looks televised. He gets asked a question. He just looks like he's terrified. He goes, yep, Yep. And then he proceeds to just bomb badly through this promo. Every single line is like he's in assembly at school. Like, he's absolutely terrified. And he goes, "You turned the tables on me on a wrong way." What does that mean? What on earth does that mean?
It's a moment. You see that video for the first time, and like, I was a wrestling nerd as a kid, like I'm a wrestling nerd as an adult, and I kept countless things on tapes. Like, before I just decided I had to bin them off. You thank the Lord that there's some people that never bin those tapes and find a way to get them to the internet, because all of that stuff that would have been lost forever, magic, restored forever, because already somebody's taken that version of the video and copied it for themselves. So if WWE ever put a copyright on it or get the footage or whatever, somebody else will get it back up there. And get it. Stuff like that never disappears now from the consciousness of the internet. It's a wonderful thing.
Honourable mentions have to go to the Shockmaster. I think that's the one that everyone's brain will go to.
It's the industry standard, I think, isn't it? And rightfully so. It's an incredible piece of, like, awful wrestling television.
It's not just him falling over, though, is it? It's the fact he falls over, his glittery Stormtrooper helmet falls off.
A glittery Stormtrooper helmet. Somebody's found something in the Turner prop box and thought, just glitter gun that. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. He's wearing like a black fur coat turned into a cape and a pair of jeans and cowboy boots. Like, the whole thing is half
the premise of why he falls over as well, because they put that extra beam that
That's
they didn't know about.
That's classic WCW, that. But my favourite moment of it is, again, when something's so brilliant, it kind of creates a picture in your mind's eye of how the whole thing went down. And all I can imagine is that poor bastard, Fred Ottman, looking at this glitter Stormtrooper helmet thinking, that was Typhoon. Hogan's mate for a while.
I was a somebody.
I was a bit of a somebody. Like, it was a bit over, it didn't quite work out. So I've got this stupid glitter Stormtrooper helmet in my hand, and he's probably thinking to himself, I'm probably going to get a push off this. How could it get any worse than this? And then he falls on his arse. He fell flat on his ass. As the British Bulldog said.
And it's the combination of all those things, and then, "You want to play with me?"
You want to play to me?
and then them trying to sell at the same time. We should mention Sid in all of this as well. Yeah. There's a couple of things we can have here. We've got the... You're half the man that I am, and I've got half the brain that you do.
Incredible. What, like, obviously, of course, the Nash apologist that I am.
You do!
What I love
it's the stupid voice as well, his stupid accent.
Of all the people you could have botched that in front of, right? You don't want to do it in front of two people that do not care about bantering you up.
No.
Scott Hall and Kevin Nash are pissing their pants laughing on a live edition of Nitro, while Kevin Nash is dressed up as Sid. He's got a Sid chin, he's got the little Jericho wig. Like, it's the worst case scenario for a guy like Sid, who's just come back into the company, ready to get a huge push, and they're like, no way, mate, you are not getting away with this. Incredible, absolutely incredible.
There's obviously the Sid backstage. Sorry, can we start over? We're live, pal.
We're live, pal.
That's another great one.
Sid, man, what a patter generator.
Oh, he's huge.
And I have to give a mention to Hulk Hogan's attempted promo on Vince McMahon on, I think it's SmackDown.
It was a WrestleMania build-up promo.
Yeah.
Cool,
and he tries to say, I'll say what he tries to say.
This is quoting Hulk Hogan, not 2015 Hulk Hogan, but 2003 Hulk Hogan.
He tries to say,
you're all right.
I think what he's attempting to say is, you're trying to claim that I'm just the right guy in the right place at the right time.
Well done, got it in one.
That was the promo.
He's a pro.
Instead,
better than Hulk Hogan.
Instead, he says,
got a better tash now.
You think that I'm just the right gay guy in the right place at the right time, and he has about 5 goes at it, and it doesn't get any better. And Vince, bless him, is trying to sell his little socks off for it. And he, come on, you can get there. Just start again. We can edit this. It's SmackDown. We'll sort this out. Nah, absolutely screws it up. But I think the cringeworthy moment for me is one I didn't even see live. I just found out about it a few days later. I was away on a stag do, and I was in the middle of nowhere. When I eventually got signal back on my phone blew up, and I thought, there's been some sort of family tragedy or something terrible's happened.
I know where this is going.
And in reality, Titus O'Neil at the greatest Royal Rumble had, to quote the British Bulldog, fell flat on his ass as he ran down to the ring. And I don't know, it kind of made me feel incredibly proud and incredibly cringeworthy at the same time.
This was one of my moments where I know you go, this is just peak WWE. You just think it epitomizes the entire organization. And the reason why is, so you've got Titus O'Neil, like just a performer who's just not very good. Sorry, Will Bourne. He's just not. Probably shouldn't be there. He's like, if you look at the worldwide standard of pro wrestling, WWE is the biggest company in the world. He's one of the worst. Therefore, he should not really be in WWE. I mean, it's basics. It's basics. So you've got this going on. You've got WWE on the show where he makes a complete tit of himself, propagandizing a journalist killing regime, right? So it's horrific. And this is such a moment of slapstick comedy, which is probably the great unifier of mankind, isn't
It's
it?
the funniest thing that's ever happened in WWE, and WWE didn't plan it.
Yeah.
It's
so
the moment we didn't
there's
realise
that.
we needed on a show like that. I think.
So there's that. So that's what I was getting at. So the levity of that moment was a bit like, there's nothing like watching someone fall over and just laughing. And like it unites the cooks and the masculine men and the left and the right and people of all races, just slapstick comedy. And because of that, the Michael Cole and Corey Graves absolutely corpse laughing. They corpsed so much. And it just felt like we're doing something horrible here. We feel bad about doing it, but it just a complete wave of warmth just spread from Titus O'Neil to the commentary booth and out back to the fandom and thinking this is a horrible thing, but we've been united in our humanity here. So it was the warmest thing on the most horrible show, and it still involved endlessly replaying through Vince McMahon's orders the vast humiliation of a human being. So the nice thing they could have done on that show was an horrific act of just humiliation.
It's like on any other night, had it not been Saudi Arabia, like we always get pilloried in the comments section for daring to support New Japan Pro Wrestling. But an identical thing happened this very same year in New Japan. Yoshihashi, kind of the Titus O'Neil of New Japan in a way, like a bit of a klutzer, never was. Runs to the ring, smashes his face open because he slips an extra foot in front of where Titus did. Tries to stumble into the ring and complete the run-in he's supposed to do, but he's knackered. He falls onto the floor in a pool of his own blood, and the heel, Jay White, who's fighting with him, takes his blood and rubs it on his chest. It's an act of hideous villainy, and it's taken a moment, a catastrophic, cringeworthy moment for a pro wrestler, and turned it into some brilliant pro wrestling visual for the bad guy. WWE, now just play the moment. Ruin, who we tell you every week is the nicest guy on the roster, the dad of the year, the charitable guy. Take him and absolutely ruin him. The golfing class in those two companies is marvelous. But as Sidgwick says, for all the nights for that to happen, this was the one.
Yeah,
this was
exactly.
the one.
Absolutely.
Let us know your most cringeworthy moment in wrestling in the comment section or on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. And whilst you're there, you can follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Sidgwick at
Sidgwick.
Follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
To follow me at Adam Wilburn. You can follow us all, as I said, at WhatCultureWWE. Make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes or Spotify for daily podcasts. My thanks to the Dudley Boys. Thank you for either watching or listening, and we will see you soon.